Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. This time, 10 best episodes of Thundercats, 1985 to 1989. The 80s cartoon Thundercats has been monumental for those growing up during that era. So monumental that today you have notable musicians who sport Thundercat as their stage name. Watching Lion-O's bravery and resolve triumph against the evil and greedy Mumm-Ra has acted as a great influence for children, teaching life lessons where one learns to prioritize good over evil and learn the power of friendship. This group of interstellar, cat-like humanoid aliens created by Tobin Ted Wolf found a new home on Third Earth after the destruction of their home planet Thundera. During their time on Third Earth, they fought off the evil Mumm-Ra and his Mutants and Lunataks, preventing the ancient spirits of evil and Mumm-Ra from ruling over the planet. Lion-O's Sword of Omens was a weapon of great inconvenience to villains, enraging them more and more. And because Mumm-Ra grew more desperate, we, the viewers, got to see stellar episodes with bigger threats, as Mumm-Ra grew mad trying to destroy the Thundercats. The theme song is a memorable tune from the 80s. The animation and fights were amazing as well, considering the fact that they used technology from 40 years ago. Things like these make one feel kinda old, to be honest, but some good old nostalgia goes a long way, as this video is dedicated to recapitulating the events that took place in some very interesting episodes of the Thundercats. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Exodus, Season 1, Episode 1. Let's begin with the pilot episode Exodus, where the audience is introduced to the premise of Thundercats for the first time. The Thundercats travel through space in their royal flagship as their home planet Thundera explodes. A young Lion-O witnesses this painful event and is deeply saddened by it. His mentor and master, Jaguar, attempts to console him by telling him how the code of thunder will live within Lion-O, as he is the lord of the Thundercats.
It will be your sacred duty to rule according to that code in our new home.
He takes Lion-O to a chamber where we see the mighty Sword of Omens for the very first time. This sword is home to the Eye of Thundera, the power source of the Thundercats, and is wielded by none other than Lion-O himself. He tells Lion-O how the sword will open its eye whenever Lion-O truly needs it to. With Chitara, Panthro, Tigra and Snarf present in the chamber, Jaguar gives the Thundercats weapons and protective clothing for their battles to come. Right then, the mutants of Plunder attack the flagship and destroy all of their escort ships.
A direct hit, Slime! Superb!
They infiltrate the flagship, and two of the mutants, Slithe and Jackal Man, get into the sword chamber to get their hands on the Sword of Omens for their boss, Mumm-Ra. Meanwhile, the other mutants engage the Thundercats in a fight.
Where'd he go? Now you don't see me.
Lion-O and Snarf try to protect the sword, and when the mutants near them, the Eye of Thundera activates in Lion-O's hands, generating its power. The mutants escape into their ship and leave out of fear. However, the flagship had sustained too much damage to reach their designated galaxy, so they chose to go to Third Earth instead. The Thundercats enter the suspension capsules to travel to the planet light years away, while Jaguar pilots the ship, convinced that he will pass away due to aging. Because even though the capsules slow down aging, some aging is inevitable, and Jaguar was already very old. As Jaguar passes away after piloting the ship for years, he puts it on autopilot and disappears into thin air. The ship reaches Third Earth with a crash, and the suspension capsules with Lion-O and Snarf are thrown out with the sword. Lion-O appears as a grown Thundercat, but he spots the mutants and their ship as well. As the mutants try to attack the other Thundercats in their capsules, Lion-O fights them off with his Sword of Omens and then uses the Eye of Thundera to awaken his teammates. The others wake up immediately and fight off the mutants. Return to Thundera, Season 1, Episode 20. Let's talk about Mumm-Ra before diving into this episode. He is a mummified demon priest who is the main villain of the show and has absolute mastery over black magic and sorcery. He lives in the Black Pyramid, which is possibly the ruins of an ancient Egyptian civilization, with his loyal pet Marmot. He wants three things: to rule Third Earth, to eliminate the Thundercats, and Lion-O's Eye of Thundera. The mutants of Plundar work under him. In the episode, the mutants invite Mumm-Ra to Castle Plundar. A mutant reveals the warbot to the demon priest, which is the product of advanced Plundarian science.
Awesome invention of Plundarian science.
As Mumm-Ra grows curious regarding its abilities, Slythe demonstrates it by using a remote to make a shot at a frog dog who was asleep. The creature transforms into a statue as an attempt to convince a skeptical Mumm-Ra about the warbot's prowess and its potential to take down the mighty Thundercats. He orders the warbot to go to the lair of the Thundercats, and it complies. The Thundercats had retrieved a time capsule from the caveman, who were an indigenous species from Third Earth. As Panthro switches on the device, the Thundercats get a glimpse of a beautiful image of Thundera from the projector. As all the Thundercats slept at night, Lion-O, yearning to see his home again, switched on the time capsule while standing in front of its projector. He is sent back in time and space by the projected hologram. He finds himself back on Thundera, a day before the planet exploded.
You are home again on Thundera.
Meanwhile, he and the Thundercats were oblivious to the warbot nearing their lair. The Thundercats wake up when the warbot triggers the fortress's alarm. After assembling at the control room, they guess that the mutants are involved. They try to take on the advanced machine, as Panthro uses several mechanical offensive attacks such as fire, missiles, laser beams, and ice against it. He also uses the ballista to chain it, but everything fails as the warbot repels all attacks. In Thundera, Lion-O finds obstacles in his path. He escapes a giant scorpion and finds Kano, his pet cat from when he was a young boy, who takes Lion-O to his father, Claudus. Claudus was blind, and Lion-O spots him backed into a corner by the mutants Slythe and Vulture-Man, who wanted the elderly Thundercat to hand them the plans for the Plundarian warbot. But this was a lot more than just a projected vision from a hologram. Lion-O attacks the mutants with his sword, making them flee, and convinces Claudus that he is his son.
Who are you? I am Lion-O, your son.
He gives Lion-O the plans for the warbot, but refuses to leave with him despite hearing of the planet's destruction, as he wanted to work on the flagship for the Thundercats to escape. Lion-O leaves, lamenting. The warbot on Third Earth subdues the Thundercats completely. It uses magnetos, its specialized chains, to rip off the head of the cat's lair and wreak havoc all over. The Thundercats turn into statues, but Lion-O returns at the nick of time. He unfreezes his friends with his sword and blasts off the warbot. With the plans he acquired from his father, Lion-O lands beside it and navigates himself into its weak spot, a red disc under its feet. He stabs the disc with his sword before the warbot can squash him and saves the day by making it explode. Feliner, Season 1, Episode 29 and 30. Vulture-Man finds himself annoyed as the mutants fail time and again to destroy the Thundercats. He contacts Rataro, the one who commanded the mutants on Plundar, and they go to the planet of Schnarfs to kidnap Schnarf's nephew, Schnarfer. Rataro also takes over command from Slythe. The young Schnarfer is released as bait to grapple the Thundercats.
Him escape. He will bring the Thundercats to me.
Schnarfer goes to the cat's lair and is very happy to reunite with Schnarf, who tells Schnarfer the story of surviving Thundera's destruction. But Rataro hadn't released Schnarfer without a plan. He uses his rat's eyes to draw Schnarfer towards Castle Plundar before Schnarf gets to finish his story, so that the Thundercats come to the castle to rescue Schnarfer. The Thundercats leave their lair in the Thunder Tank, but they cannot use their comms as Rataro had scrambled the signals inside the Rat Star. Worst of all, Lion-O couldn't see anything through the eye of Thundera.
It is. It's throwing out a powerful shield. It's even blocking the Sword of Omens.
Rataro uses his Cannon to blast the tank and creates a rock giant with his molecular mutator. The Thundercats fight the giant and Rataro damages the Thunder Tank. Lion-O uses his Sword of Omens and sends Ratstar to the ground, rescuing Schnarfer. They needed a new mode of transportation to send Schnarfer back home. Their latest vehicle, Feliner, was almost done. It was capable of interstellar travel, but it lacked a device called the Hyperspace Mega Condenser. Schnarf suggests they take the piece from Rataro's Ratstar.
About trying to get the parts you need from the wreck of the Rat Star.
Slythe takes a dig at Rataro for failing and blames him for the defeat. Rataro uses his formidable rat's eyes on Slythe. With the daggers from the Sace, Slythe changes his mind and chooses to follow Rataro's orders. They create a Mutank and use it to take the Ratstar to Castle Plundar. Schnarf tells young Schnarfer that he wishes to return to the planet of Schnartz with his nephew. The Thundercats were out to get their hands on the hyperspace mega condenser used in the Ratstar, but both the Thundercats and the mutants had been outwitted by Mumm-Ra. The mummified sorcerer was aware of everything that was taking place while in his Black Pyramid. His plan was to lure the Thundercats to himself, with the mega condenser as the bait. On reaching the fortress, the mutants from the Mutank immediately launch an attack on the Thundercats. The tanks of the two teams engage in a mecha fight, locking horns with one another. Lion-O uses this opportunity to sneak into the Ratstar, but is shockingly greeted by Mumm-Ra, who holds the mega condenser. He manages to get Mumm-Ra to drop it and flees with it. Rataro interrupts, but Lion-O defeats him as well. Victorious, the Thundercats return to their lair with the condenser. As Schnarfer prepares to return to the planet of the Schnarfs via the Feliner, Schnarf admits that he wanted to join Snarfer as well. Chitara, Panthro, Wily Kit and Wily Cat were present at the moment and they were shocked by this revelation. The Feliner lifts off, but Schnarf changes his mind and ultimately decides to stay back with the cats. Mumm-Ra Lives, Season 2, Episode 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. A greedy Mumm-Ra had snatched the sentient and powerful body of the Star of Thundera from Lion-O, who was wearing it after it had changed into a talisman. Mumm-Ra tried to open it, which resulted in a ginormous explosion. In the first episode of Thundercats Season 2, Mumm-Ra is shown to have survived the explosion, but he is severely weakened. Mutt is given Mumm-Ra's form and travels to Castle Plundar and orders his mutants to free the Lunataks.
You will now release them.
This conversation is overheard by Schnarf, who immediately rushes to convey the news to the cats, but the mutants spot him. They attack Schnarf, but the Sword of Omens alerts Lion-O of the dangers, and the Thundercats reach Schnarf immediately to fight off the mutants. The Thundercats search for the Lunataks, while Pumira and Bengali spot the mutants on Darkside. They return to the cat's lair to convey the information, following which Chitara and Lion-O drive out to the scene, where they witness the Lunataks being freed.
The Lunataks! The mutants have freed the Lunataks!
Marmot, under the guise of Mumm-Ra, orders the Lunataks to defeat the Thundercats to rule Third Earth. Panthro, Bengali, and Pumira travel to the Thundrillium mine to collect Thundrillium, but find the mine plundered and the miners enslaved. They free the brute men, i.e. the miners, and return to the lair where they learn about the kidnappings of the Balkans and Wallows as well. Lion-O's sword is snapped in two mid-battle, but Bengali, being a Thunderian blacksmith, is able to restore it. A Wallow and a Balkan tell the cats about the construction of a sky tomb and the way to Darkside through the forests of mists. Linkso navigates through the forest and takes the cats there, but they find that the sky tomb is mobile and operational, which will allow the Lunataks to terrorize Third Earth.
The Lunataks can move anywhere, terrorize and plunder wherever they want to.
The Thundercats plan to construct the Tower of Omens to keep an eye on the Lunataks, but they do not know that Marmot, guised as a Burble, was spying on them. The Lunataks attack the construction site and subdue the cats, but Linkso wards them off with fire from the Tower of Omens' cat's eye. Mumm-Ra, frustrated, decides to handle things himself and invokes the ancient spirits of evil for power. He returns to his original form. Schnarfer lands on Darkside while heading towards the cats, and the Lunataks try to capture him. Meanwhile, the Thundercats head to Darkside and rescue Schnarfer. Mumm-Ra materializes in front of the Lunataks and asks them to use their slaves as bait to lure the Thundercats. It works as the cats plan a rescue. Linkso and Chitara go to the Black Pyramid to verify Mumm-Ra's revival. The rest of the Thundercats face the Lunataks on arriving at Darkside. They are all subdued and captured, then taken to the Sky Tomb. Linkso and Chitara find a powerful anti-ancient spirit talisman in the pyramid and use it to defeat Mumm-Ra in the Sky Tomb. Lion-O learns that Mumm-Ra's reflection has ceased to be a weakness for the sorcerer, and the Thundercats head back to their lair. The Mad Bubbler, Season 2, Episode 14. The Lunataks learn about a mine on Hook Mountain where Thundrillium, the mineral that fuels the Thundercats' vehicles and lair, can be found. They head towards it immediately and come across Snowman and Snow Meow, who were in the vicinity of the Hook Mountain. The cats try to stop the Lunataks, Luna, Chiller, and Amok from infiltrating the mine because of an evil spirit dwelling within, but their efforts turn out to be unsuccessful. So they decide to inform the Thundercats about this. Snow Meow returns to the mine with Panthro, Chitara, and Tigra. The Thundrillium mine came with a legend, the legend of the Mad Bubbler. This creature is reptilian and evil and is known to reside in this very mine, but no one knows whether it is real or just a tale. As the Thundercats decide to enter the mine, Snowman grows fearful, but the Lunataks had to be stopped from getting their hands on the Thundrillium. So, Snowman guards the place as the cats venture into the dark pit. Luna, Chiller, and Amok, who had entered the mine earlier, were captured in bubbles produced by the Mad Bubbler.
I'm choking in here.
Panthro, Chitara, and Tigra fall into the bubbles of the evil spirit as well and are captured. The bubbles produced a gas that caused the captives to develop a mental condition called mine madness. This made anyone be consumed by their dark and evil thoughts. The Thundercats fall victim to the mind-altering effects of the bubble. Luck favored the Lunataks as they incidentally fell into the ground from a hole. They ended up outside the mine, but the Thundercats seemed to have the short end of the stick. As mind madness consumed them, they began to fight each other and chant, "Destroy or be destroyed."
Destroy or be destroyed.
Lion-O, who is in Burble Village, finds out about his friends being in grave danger from the Eye of Thundera. He plans to rush to the mine immediately, but is stopped by Roe Bear Bill as he alerts Lion-O about the Mad Bubbler. Jagar appears as well and confirms the existence of the entity and mentions how only the Schnarfs can save the Thundercats, as they were a species devoid of any evil whatsoever. Schnarf and Schnarfer are summoned by Lion-O outside the Thundrillium mine, and they enter the cave. The Schnarfs rescue the 3 Thundercats, bringing them to Lion-O. Using the magical powers of the Sword of Omens, Lion-O rescues his friends from their mind madness, and they head back to the cat's lair together.
Come there.
The Telepathy Beam, Season 3, Episode 9. The Lunataks wanted to get their hands on the treasure of Thundera, for which they needed to go to New Thundera, but their Sky Tomb required some upgrades. The mutant Vulture Man creates a device with help from the Lunataks. He names the device the Telepathy Beam, as it can emit beams and plant fake visions into the subconscious of Chitara. They plan to use it to cause a rift between the Thundercats, weakening them, which will allow the mutants to capture Panthro and make him upgrade their Sky Tomb fortress. Vulture Man uses his beam to plant images on Chitara's psyche. With Lion-O, she goes to chase wild geese in the Burble Village and the treetop kingdom of the Warrior Maidens. Their absence creates an opportunity for Alluro, who hypnotizes Tricorn Elk using the Psych Club. The elk is then used as bait to lure and capture Panthro. Psychological weapons are used to mesmerize Panthro, who goes to the Sky Tomb and begins to upgrade the fortress. Vulture Man transmits new images of Panthro being in trouble on Hook Mountain. Other images show Panthro troubled in Mumm-Ra's tomb and inside Castle Plundar. Not knowing where to go and what to do, the Thundercats go to all 3 locations. Lion-O heads to the Black Pyramid, Wily Kit and Wily Cat go to the Hook Mountain, and Tigra goes to Castle Plundar. Misfortune falls on all of them as the ancient spirits of evil, Amok and Luna, capture Lion-O. Chiller freezes Wily Kid and Wily Cat, while Red-Eye entraps Tigra. Chitara finds herself in a terrible mental state and almost causes the Feliner in the cat's lair to crash. Linkso advises her to listen to her own heart, and Chitara, with her willpower, manages to ignore all the false visions. She then emits powerful beams of energy from her body which not only destroy the telepathy beam, but also saves her friends who have been captured.
Thundercats!
The Jade Dragon, Season 3, Episode 18. The antagonists have failed to destroy the Thundercats over and over again. Seemingly frustrated, they try to conjure another sinister scheme. The ancient spirits of evil command Mumm-Ra to instigate a plan and make images bubble from the magician's cauldron. The image portrays the double-headed Dragon of Doom, which is a statue that has been bewitched by an ancient samurai's future father-in-law who disapproved of him. The statue comes to life and begins to grow until it is enormous. It devours the samurai and then shrinks back to its real size. But all's not lost, as Jagar had rescued the samurai back then, a young Jagar, of course. He then safeguarded the statue, having kept it in the casket alongside the treasure of Thundera. The casket was broken by the Sword of Omens, now wielded by Lion-O. The artifacts of the casket got scattered over New Thundera, the statue included, and the Lunataks wanted the treasure as well. Mumm-Ra was under orders from the ancient spirits to unleash the dragon and destroy the Thundercats. He transforms his pet Marmut into a giant bat. The samurai, Hachiman from the planet of the Red Sun, had a terrible nightmare about the double-headed dragon eating Lion-O. He immediately considered it to be a premonition of sorts and rushed to the cats on his mechanical horse, Doji Cage. Marmut, as the giant bat, attacks Hachiman and destroys his horse. The samurai is mighty and overpowers Marmut, causing him to retreat. But he begins to free fall and lands on New Thundera. In New Thundera, we see Lion-O and Chitara uncovering the Dragon of Doom statue with Scooper, their robotic dog. Mumm-Ra, who is keeping tabs on everything from the Black Pyramid, activates the double-headed dragon, making it grow big in size. The dragon swallowed Lion-O and Chitara in one gulp and shrunk back to its original size. Hachiman free falls onto the planet and reaches the site where he sees that his nightmare of Lion-O getting swallowed has unfortunately come true. He then tracks Mumm-Ra down and the spirits of his ancestors help. He is transported to the Black Pyramid and battles Mumm-Ra. After the duel, Hachiman finds himself victorious and returns to New Thundera. He splits the Dragon of Doom statue to free his friends. Mumm-Ra reappears, but this time a miniaturized Lion-O is free to take the magician down. He activates the signal of the Thundercats, which sends Mumm-Ra off and restores Lion-O and Chitara to their original sizes. The Last Day, Season 3, Episode 20. After having worked alongside and under the ancient spirits of evil all this time, Mumm-Ra finds himself overpowered by their wrath as they are angered by his constant failure in destroying the Thundercats. Not just that, but they have lost several Lunataks and mutants, and all of this has delayed their plan of ruling Third Earth. The ancient spirits give Mumm-Ra a final warning and grant him only a day to get rid of the Thundercats. They also banish Marmut and give Mumm-Ra his most powerful form. The Black Pyramid collapses. Mumm-Ra goes on a mayhem with his new power, and Third Earth is plagued by natural calamities. Volcanoes and earthquakes take over the geography of the planet, and the Thundercats begin to suspect a planetary destruction within 12 hours, making things sadder for them as they did not want to lose another planet they called home. However, they suspect Mumm-Ra to be behind this and set out to search for the demon priest. Unfortunately, Chitara and Tigra become the first two Thundercats who witness Mumm-Ra in his uglified but exponentially larger and more powerful state. He managed to get rid of them with ease and sent them off to a random dimension. Panthro and Lion-O reach the scene of action and put up a bigger fight compared to the first two cats against Mumm-Ra, but Panthro suffers the same fate and is sent off to the same dimension as Tigra and Chitara. Mumm-Ra uses his new powers to create a prison of molten lava and stone where he traps Lion-O. With the Sword of Plunder, he slashes the Tower of Omens and banishes the Thunder Kittens Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Linkso advises Schnarf to use the items from the treasure of Thundera to arm himself. Schnarf follows and enters the Book of Omens to find a tactic that can defeat the overtly powerful Mumm-Ra. Jagar joins them as well. He transports himself into the Eye of Thundera along with the other Thundercats. This gives the Sword of Omens enough power to destroy the prison where Lion-O is captured, and he is sent flying to Mumm-Ra. Lion-O and Mumm-Ra duel with their two mighty swords, but an image of Schnarf appears in the sword's eye. Schnarf tells Lion-O that he had to survive till sunset to take Mumm-Ra down. Physically, Mumm-Ra is stronger, but as sundown arrives, the ancient spirits of evil banish Mumm-Ra, as their claws required him to destroy the Thundercats in a day. Return to Thundera, Season 4, Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. With Mumm-Ra banished from Third Earth, the Thundercats didn't have to worry about its safety anymore. The Mutants and Lunataks had also been gotten rid of, and so the Thundercats decided that they should go back home to New Thundera. They had some loose ends to tie first, though, such as blowing up the Black Pyramid and appointing the League of Third Earth, a league that will protect the planet while the Thundercats are absent. To maintain communication between the two planets, Tigra and Mumm-Ra stay behind. With the departure of the Thundercats, the ancient spirits of evil resurrect themselves and free Mumm-Ra, who heads to New Thundera. The cats in Thundera pair up with the Schnarfs and construct a new cat's lair in the Valley of the Stone Giants. Mumm-Ra watches it all happen from his cauldron and takes the form of their mentor, Jagar. He travels to the Great Beneath and makes Jagara believe that the Thundercats are enemies guised as the noble cats. Jagara adjusts the mighty gyroscope to reduce the gravity in the valley. Lion-O uses his sword to send a cat signal due to the reduction in gravity, but the signal breaks Jagara from the spell. Mumm-Ra flees with the gyroscope regulator, but Jagara stabilizes it temporarily. Problems in gravity, earthquakes, erratic tremors take over New Thundera. Meanwhile, Thunderians on their way to New Thundera are captured by Two-Time. Schnarf, Lion-O and Chitara rush to rescue them. On the other hand, Mumm-Ra frees Groon and sends him to New Thundera. Groon destroys Lion-O's Sword of Omens and ties them up on the rocks in the churning canyon so that they get crushed. Schnarf tries to take the broken sword to Bengali to repair it, but the blacksmith Char captures him. Char mends the sword. In the distance, Chitara senses the sword has been repaired. Lion-O calls the sword to himself and fights Groon, but this time the sword is more powerful. The cats go back to the construction site for the cat's lair. The Thundercats discuss the gravitational problems and distress calls from Thunderians in a council meeting, and they search for the refugees. They take their new vehicle, Whiskers, out, hoping for it to determine the cause of their problems. However, they get trapped in a magnetic field that drags them to a spaceship known as Dome Down. They find the refugees and their captor Two-Time, who is altering the gravity of the planet. The other Thundercats spot Mumm-Ra while flying to Lion-O, who has already defeated Two-Time. The refugees are escorted to the new lair while Lion-O, the Thunderkittens and Panthro head to Churning Canyon to take Mumm-Ra down. Mumm-Ra again convinces Jagara about the Thundercats being enemies disguised as the cats, and she rips out the controls of the gyroscope to defeat the fake cats. However, the Thundercats appear just in time and with the Sword of Omens. Mumm-Ra's true form is revealed. He escapes but reveals that he has the regulator for the gyroscope, without which the demise of the planet was inevitable. The Thundercats try to stabilize the gyroscope, but with their little knowledge of the device, nothing works. Massive tremors and disturbances plague the construction site and Schnarf finds himself under a boulder. The Thundercats run to rescue him. Mumm-Ra decides to pursue Mumm-Ra and Tigra, the two Thundercats on Third Earth, as he is sure that New Thundera will be destroyed now that he was in possession of the gyroscope regulator. He sends Marmot and his mutants to defeat the two remaining cats. He then disguises himself as Mandora and reaches Third Earth. The mutants are instructed with new orders. Snowman, Tigra and Mumm-Ra fight the mutants and defeat them. The Thundercats on New Thundera gain control over the gyroscope temporarily with a replacement regulator, but they had to find the original to save the planet. However, Mumm-Ra destroys the original one and throws it into his cauldron. He heads to the Great Beneath and fires bolts at the gyroscope, damaging it. Jagara fails to stop him, and things get worse in New Thundera. The Thundercats fail to permeate the Churching Canyon due to Mumm-Ra's magical force field. With Jagar's advice, Lion-O penetrates the field with his sword and comes face to face with Mumm-Ra. They duel, and the Thundercats' vehicles fly in to aid Lion-O. Mumm-Ra is defeated and he flees, but cuts the cord holding the gyroscope. The device falls into an abyss, but Lion-O turns his sword into a makeshift gyroscope. Meanwhile, Bengali and Panthro create a new one, activated by the Eye of Thundera. Screw Loose, Season 4, Episode 9. Lion-O, Panthro and Schnarf face earthquakes in the newly constructed cat's lair on New Thundera. Having created a new gyroscope, they do not know the cause of the tremors and receive a distress call from Jagara. Turns out the mighty gyroscope is having issues, causing it to wobble. It had to be repaired as soon as possible, otherwise New Thundera would be at the risk of losing its gravitational field. They rush to the Great Beneath and meet with Jagara. Chitara and Bengali join them as well, along with a gyroscope engineer called Screw Loose, a robot. He was extremely skilled, but his body had taken a beating as the mechanics had not been upgraded for several years. Mumm-Ra, who had been keeping an eye on everything via his cauldron, needed more intel of what was going on. With his magic, he transformed Marmot into a fly and sent him in as a spy. In the Great Beneath, a dilapidated Screwloose explains how he had a logic condenser that could work as a brain for the gyroscope, which is also why he was the best gyro engineer in the entire universe. Mumm-Ra, with this information, conjured an evil logic condenser using the powers of the ancient spirits of evil. He then materialized inside the Great Beneath and swapped the two logic condensers. This made Screwloose alternate between being a regular good robot and an evil one, stabilizing and destabilizing the gyroscope. He shifts the balance level of the device off-center under the influence of the evil logic condenser. Wily Kit and Jagara try to capture Screwloose, but he manages to ward them off. There's a lot of commotion in the Great Beneath, and finally Lion-O arrives to solve everything. Mumm-Ra follows suit, and the two nemesis engage in battle once again. Their swords, Sword of Omens and Sword of Plunder, leave their wielders' hands and fight one another mid-air. Screwloose gets his hands on both the swords and attacks Lion-O under the influence of the evil logic condenser, which he couldn't fight back. However, Lion-O manages to get his sword back and triggers off the cat signal. The effects of the evil condenser leave Screwloose, and Mumm-Ra returns to his new Black Pyramid with another loss in his arsenal. Screwloose, now back to normal, helps the Thundercats in repairing the mighty gyroscope. And with that, today's video comes to an end. Have you watched these episodes? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on the video. Till then, goodbye, and have a nice day.